And we're off.
All right. It looks like we're here. So should I christen it with a By the Power Cosmic
Podcast.
I know it's kind of silly. Like, how do you take that seriously? But I think that pretty much sums up, you and me and the rest of our friends, our crew, our expanded crew we're going to have here.
Yep.
Kind of our fandom, our love for kind of like comics. And anyway, so do you want to kick off like kind of what the podcast is about before we kind of
quick introductions for those of you who don't know us personally. I'm Vlad Rangitz, and this is my colleague and my best friend, Iliopolis XD, otherwise known as Aristides Iliopolis. Artie and I, lovingly, have been friends for over 4 decades. So a lot of the stuff that you're going to hear from coming out of us, there's a lot of shorthand that we're going to try to sort of translate for you, for everybody to know. But basically, we wear our love of fandom on our sleeves, and we have for basically since we were born. We're old school 77 Star Wars diehards, comic fans, movie fans, everything to do with geekdom is pretty much on the table. Everybody, it's on the table. Be it movies, be it video games, be it Dungeons and Dragons, be it comedy, stand-up comedy, be it anything, television shows, anything. Nothing is off limits to this podcast. But this is sort of a free-form podcast that we're forming together. We want to do this. We want to do this because we love hanging out and spending time and talking. And I think Artie and I have discussed this plenty of times, which is the idea of sort of that late night diner talk when you decompress after seeing a great movie with your buddies and you want to sit there having a plate of disco fries and a bagel at 2 a.m. in the morning and bullshitting about, I don't know, the new Star Wars film or whatever. We were doing it virtually in these trying times of COVID, but we hope that you will join us. And just basically, this is just us hanging out and shooting the shit. And we hope you like it, and you hope you're with us.
Yeah, I think
turn it over to my buddy.
I think Diner Talk is the perfect way to do it. I mean, this is the stuff all of fandom talks about, right?
Yep.
Star Wars, Dungeons and Dragons, anything going on in comic books, right? The MCEU,
yep,
which is basically ever present these days, right? Since Disney Plus came out. And I think even with COVID, it's gone nonstop. So, we've been friends forever. We love this stuff. We're just like you guys. We're deep in it. We live it. We wear it on our bodies, yep. Going back to like the 70s when we started. And I think, we've been talking about like this stuff since we've known each other, right? Since we met in the early 80s, we've just been chit-chatting and enjoying our love of this kind of fandom forever. And like you said,
it is, yeah. It's funny you should say that. It is 40 years, 81 to 2021. It's 40 years of brotherhood is more the word that I'd like to use, and sort of
good memories, like that. Good memories and lots of fun. And I think kind of like the podcast, I think we're going to kind of put our love of kind of geekdom, just like everybody else is doing, it seems these, for the last like 5 to 6 years, out there and share it with everybody. I think it's also mainly an opportunity for us to, dedicate some time being so far away to talk about the things we love to talk about and just kind of look at ourselves on the screen.
And you never know if this gets really popular and we spend time, at some point we may end up doing one face-to-face. We're going to be in the same room together, knock on wood, fingers crossed that we end up doing that.
Yeah, so without further, we're going to do that anyway, right?
We're going to do it at some point, but guerrilla style. This is guerrilla style, and we're going to do what we can. So, the format for this is we're going to have some key topics that we discuss sort of every week. We have like 3 major topics that we bring up, and it's usually something around, some television show, some movie, something or other. And then anything else that comes to mind, and then we'll follow it up as we see fit with what comes out. So the first thing that we should talk about, which is really hot off the presses right now, is the Book of Boba Fett.
So non-spoiler, right? We got to keep it
we
We're
got to
the
keep
day
it.
of
We
here,
got to
right?
keep it a non-spoiler for people, or we can, or not. Actually, you know what we can do? We can basically say we're talking non-spoiler right now, and then when we say spoiler, we tell everybody to go la 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 la. Who doesn't want to hear about it? And
Yeah,
then
you
we
know
move
kind
on
of how
from
I
it.
feel about the spoilers. You know, I have lots of friends who I've made in social media, you know, even comics pros and professionals. And I understand they don't get to watch it as soon as it comes out, like some of us. Like some of us have the kind of like benefit to wake up at 4 a.m. and
Or
we're
3 in the morning.
watching.
3 in the morning.
Whatever
For me,
time
yeah.
it starts and we're
Yeah.
watching it.
Yep.
And I can understand like you're putting up a picture of Ashoka if you're going back to the Mandalorian, not expecting it. And then all of a sudden somebody sees that and goes, oh my God, you spoiled it for me. So I understand it. I just personally have never been a person. I want to know everything. Like you and me are the same, I think, in this regard, Vlad. Is if it's on Reddit, we're reading about it. If there's a clip somewhere on YouTube,
Yeah.
going to find
I'm
it.
a weakling. I'm I'm a weakling with that. I don't have the constitution or the patience, especially if I'm not gonna if I'm not going to a movie theater right now or something like that, or I need to know. And look, I've ruined plenty of things that I wish I didn't for myself, but at the end of the day, it's
what? Like what? Did you ruin the Avengers Assemble?
no, because I'll be honest with you, the Avengers Assemble, Endgame, most of the stuff for Endgame was misdirection. They really kind of kept the leaks pretty good, Star Wars was ruined, like Rise of Skywalker. Not that that's a
Oh, we're gonna go there. I don't think we want to go there just yet. We're gonna have to do
no, I think that's a whole podcast all up to itself.
An all prequel episode.
Or sequel episode for that matter. But yeah, but with that in mind, Artie, I'm going to let you kind of start off and kind of let us kind of give your initial take on Boba Fett, Book of Boba Fett.
Let me start there. Start with the non-spoilery stuff. Number one is I knew going in I was going to have no expectation because nothing was going to live up to how the Mandalorian ended, right? Like you take the penultimate last episode, right? No, the most Star Wars thing a fan of Star Wars can experience since Jedi. Literally nothing even comes close to what you got at the end of Mandalorian. And forget that the last 5 episodes were freaking amazing. Just
yeah.
So I didn't think anything was going to live up to that. Did it meet? So having no expectations, it met my expectation. It was good. It was fun, but I had it didn't charge me up. It didn't. Here's basically the premise. Boba Fett is back, and it's his origin story after Sarlacc, right? That's basically what it is. And I really wasn't impressed. Here's some non-spoilery things. Boba Fett, most badass bounty hunter in the universe. Didn't feel that way at all. Whether his role is new now, whether he's a changed man, having gone through what he's gone through, and his appearance in The Mandalorian, you just don't get the sense that he is Boba Fett, right? And then, I've mentioned this a couple of times. He's frumpy. Like it or not.
Frumpy Fett.
Yeah, the armor doesn't fit the same. And look, I'm not going to body shame anybody. I'm not perfect. I got crooked teeth. I got a bald head. I haven't had hair since I was like 12. But it just doesn't feel right. He doesn't look, obviously armor's badass, right? But it just takes something away from it. And then I think there's something about the production, Vlado.
The production was a little wanting for me. It just felt a little small. Right. And I understand that they're building up to stuff, and I'm sure they're going to build up to it, and it's interesting, and it's I'm going to let you finish and then
did you get a sense, like, here's my biggest pet peeve. Did you get a sense that anybody understood this was Boba Fett?
No, I didn't. I mean, I understand that.
Even that he's a Mandalorian, right? Because Mandalorians have their own.
Right. And there's none of that because he doesn't have the armor. He doesn't have anything. And he's kind of, and to add to your point, again, non-spoiler territory, basically we're going from Sarlacc. Right now, the story is about how we went from Sarlacc to 5 years later when Din Djarin finds him, meets him, and right. So you have sort of that build up, and then everything post him taking over from Bib Fortuna, who I completely forgot about because I'm thinking about Jabba, but I forgot that Bib was in the middle of that all. Right. My take on it was, not that it was in a no win position, but after you've had what you had in The Mandalorian, now you're back to this sort of trying to build this out. It's kind of similar to The Mandalorian because it's another Mandalorian. What are you trying to prove here? What's his goal here? You still don't understand what his motives are. Is he trying to be a crime boss? What is he trying to be? That's sort of the thing. It's kind of a two-man show. It's a two-person show. It's him and Fennec. There's sort of that.
I think it's an interesting character, to be honest with you.
That's fine. It's fine. I just would prefer, I need to see where it goes. Now let's move on to the spoilery stuff. Okay.
Wait, before you go on, I agree 100% in that you don't get a sense that it's grounded anywhere. I understand it's a lot of setup. It's the first episode,
right?
But one thing that I think the cachet and mystique that Boba Fett has is he is the most dangerous bounty hunter in the universe, no matter what. And that should always be when people see him or interact with him or even attack him. Like say you were going to attack him, you don't just go, I'm going to beat Boba Fett, unless they establish you as that character. Like I'm going to be the guy who challenges Boba Fett. But everybody should pretty much be in awe and trepidatious about how they approach him.
Can I play devil's advocate here for a second though? Because, for some of those people who know me, know I am not a Fett apologist by any means of the imagination. I ate crow when they brought him back, but I always thought that Boba Fett, old school Star Wars fan that I am, was overrated, completely overrated. And
Vlad, to your point, his existence in the
original trilogy is overrated. Is overrated.
Well, you got this. Boba Fett where?
Right. Okay. And I've actually written articles that I can link to this basically a long time ago about that Jar Jar Binks caused more damage to the Star Wars galaxy, than Boba Fett ever did. Now, with all that said, what Favreau did last year was great, and Filoni, what they did, how they brought him back, and they made him, and they validated him, and they made him all these things. But again, I still think this is a work in progress. If you compare it to the first episode of The Mandalorian when it first came out, there was a stinger at the end of that, which was you find the child, find Grogu. So there's that immediate hook, which is like, oh, wow, this is a lot bigger than what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, but you also got a sense for him. The main character was that he needed to aspire to something, which was
right. And I think the motivations of, the motivations of Boba are still up in the air. I'd like to understand more about why he's stuck in a back to pit, back to tank, is it because of his
now you're getting into spoilers, sir.
Well, I said spoilers.
We're going to go there. I just want to touch on one thing you talked about.
Go ahead.
So talking about the mystique of Boba and how he was, really never lived up to the Boba Fett mystique that the
Boba Fett mystique was created by kids, and it was created, and it was by fans. I shouldn't just say kids.
Vlad, I got 20 different versions of the Boba Fett toy.
And the toy. Yeah. And the toy that looked cooler than anything else that you can imagine. But other than that, I'm sorry.
But let me just say this, where I think you were going, kind of like, and hopefully we can flesh this out a little bit. The mystique of Boba is probably not having him in too many things and starring in things and just appearing, being badass and going away.
Correct. Too much Boba is not a good thing. It's like, how do I put it? It's like Freddy Krueger. Freddy Krueger was really scary in Nightmare on Elm Street, the first one. Then when Freddy becomes like he's in everything, and then you have Freddy's Nightmares on Channel 9 or whatever it was on Saturday nights, and he's introducing, he becomes like, he's sort of like the crypt keeper. I'm like, I don't need
right. That's when, if you're right, he moved again. Now we're going into our fandom here, but that's when he moves from horror into being basically a meme of a caricature of himself to be the funny, how can I do funny killings from being that
right. Yeah. And that to me is like, okay, you know, I don't get it. I'm not a big fan of that. I don't get me wrong. The other things that I felt, now let's go look into spoiler territory. So fine. So, you know, it's a back and forth. It's really an establishing episode. It's really all about what happened to him, how he came out. I didn't mind the Sarlacc bit. It was a little cheap the way it was done.
Yeah,
it was
I agree with that. And that goes to that whole thing where it kind of looks small, feels small, but not personal. It doesn't even feel personal.
It doesn't. It does, and everything feels staged. And I'm sorry, but you know, between the fight outside, key geek point, which is kind of funny. The Twi'lek in the bar is Jennifer Beals from Flashdance, if you can believe that. That's Jennifer Beals. That's Jennifer Beals. I was like, oh my God, it's Jennifer Beals. So they have a nice little cameo there. I didn't feel like it was Easter egged out of its mind. It didn't feel like there was a lot of stuff in there. I just felt it's the scope and sort of the production felt small. Like I said this to you before, like Jabba's palace felt like strangely very empty, you know, like for a, quote unquote a huge crime lord, whoever that was
organization,
right? It just felt a little off. It didn't feel like, even Mos Eisley didn't feel lived in the way that you would have expected to feel.
When you mentioned that for a second, if you think back to Godfather, another movie we love, right? If you come to see the Godfather or to get his advice, you at least do a panning shot of the outside to see all the people and the Guardians and this and that, to give some idea that this is a major organization.
It didn't feel like it. It didn't feel like it at all. It felt like, hey, you know, there's nobody here. We're gonna squat in this place. That's what it felt like.
Sexy Gamorrean guards.
Well, yeah. Okay, don't get me started about that. You know, just don't get me started about it. Again, you know, it's fine if it's gonna create. Look, it's too soon to come out and say anything. I will say this: whatever the hell that monster was that came out of the ground in the sand at the end, I was like, okay, Ray Harryhausen in Clash of the Titans nonsense. I really didn't need that.
Even as a homage, it's bad because it was badly designed. I mean, it almost, you know, we're in spoiler territory, so guys, just bear with us here. There's a scene where, you know, Boba is captured by the Sand People and he's been beaten, so he's kind of docile, but you know he's going to escape. He's with a Rodian. Captured, and it looks like the shaman or the leader's son is escorting them around looking for water in the sands of Tatooine. During that scene, while they're fishing or talking about escaping, they're digging and a monster comes out of the sand to defeat them. It's not a snake, it's not a thing, it's a four-armed centaurish type of creature. And look, it could have been a really cool scene, but it's almost like no thought went into how they're going to defeat it, how to make Boba Fett look badass fighting it, how to signify that he's so badass that he could defeat a creature that's 3 times his size. And it's really badly designed. It kind of looks like a Kraken from the Harryhausen version of Clash of the Titans, but 4 arms, and he can walk on one of its arms, so it's kind of centaurish in that way. It's just a terrible, terrible design. And really, between that and Boba Fett's frumpy white, I don't know what to call it.
He looked like Taylor. He looked like Charlton Heston at the beginning of Planet of the Apes when he crash landed on Earth.
But frumpier. And again, I don't want to body shame anybody, but he's fucking Boba Fett, man. And again, he chokes out a creature that is eventually Herculean in strength, right? It's basically tossing him around with one hand, holding him with one hand, and it just was unbelievable. And it wasn't fun to watch even. So you get this scene where obviously it's a good story beat. Like he saves the kid.
He ingratiates himself into the clan, right?
Right.
Okay.
Ingratiates himself into the clan, and we get some of that like story building there. But like you're saying, the production is small, right? Even the sand dune itself looks like a stage. Like it doesn't look like, remember The Mandalorian, how if you saw like how they made The Mandalorian, they created these huge sets and screens.
Right, and they have the whole thing. It just felt like, I don't know. I don't know. It just felt for what they're trying to do. And then also that whole establishing part of them spying on sort of that gang.
Yeah, I'm sure that's going to come into it. They're more crime lords of gangs.
Right, so it's something going to happen. I think ultimately for me, I think there's some sort of a redemptive arc for Boba Fett to kind of make him sort of a man of honor. And I think also,
Well, he mentions that. That's the line, right? I'm not going to rule
right,
through
right,
fear. I'm going to rule through respect.
right, right. And
And
I
then,
also, yeah, yeah. And I also think that there's I think they want to sort of establish the Tusken Raiders as a people that have some sort of a system, a caste system or whatever it is, a system of honor or a system of whatever. And he's going to ingratiate himself because remember the first time you see Boba in in Mandalorian is, he's kind of in the Tusken Raider garb. So, and he continues to sort of wear it now. Part of it, he's got the skirt, not the skirt, but whatever you want to call it, the thing that he's got underneath. He's not wearing his typical pants anymore. So something tells me because he's saved by the Tusken Raiders, he ends up becoming sort of
yeah,
a
I'm sure they're
member
going
of
to
their
look.
of their
No doubt
tribe.
they're going to build to something, right? I'm not saying I'm not going to like it or I didn't like it. I enjoyed it. I had fun watching it, but it didn't really wow me, even though I didn't expect it to really wow me. And I, like you, don't see the essential nature of having it. It's great to have expanded universe stuff, but if we're going to do expanded universe, leave the characters from the original trilogy alone.
Right.
And
Yeah, I agree. I
let's
agree. It's
just
like,
blow it up. Let's just make it cool. Maybe they appear and it's cool, just like the way Luke appeared at the end. That was amazing. But if I don't want to see Luke in a show, I don't want to see a show about Luke.
yeah, I mean, that's, not to go way off topic and talk about sort of what has sort of happened to Star Wars, that it's no longer special, because I can get on my soapbox and say it's not special anymore because there's so much dilution of, there's content on television, there's all this stuff, there's these movies. Like, I've always been of the mindset that when you have movies like Rogue One or Solo and stuff like that, those are expanded universe type of movies. I mean, people may not agree with me, but Star Wars for me is the Skywalker saga.
Well, to
Period.
me,
End. Full
I'm going to
stop.
be honest with you, Vlad. I'm going to go, even though I don't dislike the prequels as much as maybe some people do, or as much as I originally did back in the day. I have a place for them now.
I do
But
too.
to me, there's just a new hope to Jedi. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah,
I'm gonna be
I
honest
mean,
with you.
yeah, I mean, it's hard not to say that, and I understand there's people that love the entire lore. They love, and they love everything. They love the prequels. There's a whole generation of people that grew up on the prequels and Clone Wars and feel that that's, there's a whole generation of people that watch Star Wars the special editions for the first time. That's how they saw them. And that's what led to the prequels and led to all, Clone Wars, and now leads to all the stuff like the Mandalorian and all that stuff is really a direct sort of, it's Filoni, and Favreau, but it's Filoni and all of that stuff that is coming in, and Filoni's influence and all his storytelling with Ahsoka, probably, well, Thrawn is not Filoni. Thrawn is Zahn
Right.
originally,
Books.
but I think, yeah, I mean, we're of the mind of, yeah, I feel that.
And not that I hate it. Like, I don't hate it. So
No,
before we
no, no,
finish,
no.
kind of
Star
finish
Wars.
up on that,
Here's what
I
it
don't
is.
hate it. Everyone hates the sequel trilogy. Like, literally hate it. Like, the fandom hates. I didn't hate it. I understood what they were doing. The problem is
They
there's
didn't
so many
execute
missed
it. They didn't
opportunities.
execute it. Regardless
Yeah.
of what you feel,
Yeah.
regardless of what you think, if you love it or hate it, there was no through line from
Yeah.
Force Awakens to Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah.
There was no through line. There was no story. There was no. It was all over the place. Think about it. How many times? And to use a comic analogy, you're in the middle of a great story, right? And all of a sudden, the next issue after the story. The next issue after the story is there's a guest artist and a guest writer that comes in because they took a break, and you're sitting there going, I have to wait. What the hell is this? It takes,
Yeah, but
that's what it,
I'm with you. I don't want to dwell on this too much because I know we'll go off. We'll start talking about how the three main characters never got back together. There's none of that catharsis of them ever meeting. There's kind of like nods to it when, they meet kind of during their individual scenes, talking to each other for whatever reason. But going back to Boba Fett for a second, the Book of Boba Fett, what I liked about it, I liked the Star Wars universe. So I always like to see different alien races, new cool looking stuff. Like, I guess they invented ninjas for Star Wars now. I mean, they look cool. They were cool. They had a cool weapon. There's cool things in there. There are things to like. But I'm going to tell you how I feel about it. I like that. I love the female character. I keep forgetting her name.
Fennec.
I really love her, obviously. I like Boba Fett. I hope I see a salacious crumb. I see a crumb. Give me a crumb. Let's get a Muppet in there. I like the stuff they did with the Gamorreans, believe it or not. I love fucking shirtless Gamorreans. Who thought you would have ever seen that shit? I mean, really, it's hilarious. It's great. I like the idea that there's going to be a mob turf war, that they set up that the mayor's going to wink, wink, challenge Boba Fett, right? There's all these things that are going to happen. It's cool. I like that they're playing in the Star Wars sandbox. So there's things that I like, and I want to see where it goes. So now what I didn't like, and I'll ask you to do the same. Again, I don't feel that Boba Fett's a badass. I don't feel that he has a reputation to live up to. I don't think that they are even taking into a fact that they know it's Mandalorian armor, and that alone has a status. It's almost like that's completely ignored. And then, just like you said, the scope seems, or the production somehow seems lackluster, knowing how good Disney, Star Wars, Marvel can be portrayed on screen, on the small screen, right? We've seen it. We've seen The Mandalorian, so I know what the hell you could do. And this is Boba Fett. You want to sell Boba Fett. And then all the little things that you're mentioning, like seeing him in the Sarlacc pit and how he escapes. Oh, okay, he dug his way out and he didn't bend his antenna, right? In the middle of the earth. He takes, it's just all this kind of silly stuff. And even though I understand some of that is Star Wars, like him taking the breathing tube from the stormtrooper and just
and by the way, let's geek out there for a second. Where the hell did the stormtrooper come from?
We never saw that.
Right. That was
you know where that could have came from? There are stormtroopers all over Tatooine during some point in the Star Wars.
All right, mythology. Fine. Yeah, I'm nitpicking. I know. I'm nitpicking. Yeah.
Then you have kind of the silliness of it's like they almost did Conan, right? You think about it, when Conan, they're dragging Conan and he's got to go through trials. It's like it didn't feel serious. It felt like you're saying small and hollow, no emotion, no threat. He didn't feel tough, but it still didn't feel no threat. And then you got the sand dune. It all kind of happens by the numbers. Those are the things I didn't like. I want to be thrilled to see what Boba Fett's going to do next, how he's going to shake up the universe.
I mean, to your point, look, I didn't dislike it. If I had to give it a grade, I'd probably give it a 7. I mean, that's
6.5, 7 if you're being generous.
If I'm being generous. Look, I mean, again, I know this is establishing stuff. There's still stuff out there, but it doesn't intrigue me the way that something like, some of the other shows have. And I'm not just talking about the Star Wars shows, but also like some of the Marvel shows that we're going to touch on. But I think the biggest problem that you have right now with Star Wars, and again, I mean, before I get there, Boba Fett and all television stuff about Star Wars, back to the stuff that I like. Yeah, I do like Tamora Morrison. I think he's fine. I do like Ming-Na. Is that her name? Ming. I've always get Fennec. I like the combination of them. I think it's really great. I'm not, again, I'm not salivating at Boba. Boba's not my, I'm like, okay, it's more Star Wars. It is what it is. I'm going to come at it with a little bit more critical eye. I mean, again, Mandalorian won me over. I was not excited about the Mandalorian. Now
me neither. That was the thing, right?
And that was the thing. And the Mandalorian turned it around and made it. But I think we were hankering for that. Okay. And I don't want to get into,
but there was so much good fan service. Like when we talk about Marvel, we're going to be talking about good fan service.
Well, that's what I'm about to get at. What I'm trying to say right now when it comes to Star Wars is that with Marvel, everything that's added, whether it's good or bad, I have not seen the Eternals. I can't talk about that, but everything that's been added is another piece to a bigger puzzle of the MCU in general, right? And everything is a welcome addition because it's there to be added. Depending on what your mileage with Star Wars is, again, this is me. Star Wars for me is kind of esoteric in terms of what I love about Star Wars. The story for Star Wars for me has always been about the Skywalker family, right? That's why I feel what I feel about the sequels compared to the prequels and obviously the Holy Trilogy. Even Lord of the Rings, like the Lord of the Rings for me is really about Frodo's journey. I could care less about the Silmarillion, God forbid, as people are going to crucify me. I could care less about anything else. I love that journey. I love that particular hero journey. Yes, the world has many more stories to tell. I don't care. It's
Yeah,
not. It's not. That's not for me.
I think
The
it's by
M-
virtue of when we entered fandom with Star
right,
Wars.
right. Now the thing about the MCU though is that the MCU has all these characters that you care about individually, and then when you bring them together collectively, it makes it even better. That's the sort of the thing. Now, that's the thing about Boba Fett. I'm like, okay, what's Boba Fett's role in this? Like, I think you've mentioned it in the past. Sort of, I'm excited about what Filoni and Favreau want to do with sort of Ahsoka. If it's Thrawn, if they're bringing in what's her name from
Right, a big
Rebels.
threat for a new cast of characters.
Yeah, I mean,
connect with Boba Fett.
I think what has become sort of the formula that works now is sort of bringing these things interconnected together into something bigger. It's like the Avengers formula. It is. That's what it is, and that's how it works. And it's worked for them. But Star Wars is not Marvel, and Star Wars is not going to be always that successful. So I think, I am interested about the Obi-Wan series. My problem with the Obi-Wan series is one thing and one thing only is if he's meeting Vader, other than a dream, or other than a force vision.
I'll be honest with you. I don't need you almost can't have an Obi-Wan story without Vader, right? You cannot. And again, this is where you're treading on, to me, sacred ground.
You're walking on sacred ground, and I think they have a very
all flashbacks.
Well, not even force visions. It's force visions. Whatever. Look, I don't know. I just feel that
they could have force visions, but how? It's got to be with Anakin more than Vader, right? That's what I mean. He doesn't. I mean, that's going to be my problem. Is he doesn't have a lot of Vader interactions prior to seeing Vader on the Death Star, right? He never saw Vader.
The last time he sees him should be Mustafar, and the next time he sees him is on the Death Star. Right. If they do anything to change that,
Vlad. He's not Vader. He's not Vader until the Death Star. Like, he doesn't get christened Vader until he's being pieced back together by the Emperor.
Right, and what I'm saying is, right, he doesn't. The last time he sees he's called Vader. He's been christened Vader. Don't forget, he's been christened Vader before he puts on the armor. He was, because then that's when he goes off and starts killing the younglings and does everything.
Wait, he does. I'm trying to remember.
Yes, he does. After he kills Mace Windu, the Emperor puts on his red robe and whatever, and he says, "Rise, Darth Vader." He names.
Okay,
him
I got to watch that again. I conflate that in my mind for when he's screaming.
Right. But all I'm saying is that when I left you, I was but the learner. Now I am the master.
There you go.
Yeah, that is Mustafar. It's not on some other fucking Imperial thing. Whatever's going to happen, trust me. We're talking out of our asses right now, and this all may change once this show comes out. But if they break that canon and they do one of those things, it's like, oh man, that's bad.
Right.
And that's bad writing. So let's leave it at that. So, I mean, at the end of the day, it's too premature to kind of bury Boba Fett. I don't
think we're going to bury it. I think we're going to watch it. We're hopeful. And my hope is it builds to something interesting that we want to watch quickly. Like, it's got to do it in the first couple of episodes, the first 3.
Right. It's got to be right now. There's nothing that's like, oh, I got to see the next episode right now.
Right.
Which is kind of an interesting thing because it's a juxtaposition, because we're going to siege over to whatever, not siege over. What am I saying? We're going to transfer over to something that just finished as well, which is the Hawkeye series, which speaking
of which, all the Marvel series, right? We were waiting for that to watch an episode the moment it came out.
And I think for the most part, most of the series ended up delivering in a big way. I thought I've gone on record and said I think the series were more, up until Spidey, the series were more engaging than the movies that had come out this year. And I think the series have proven that. And I think, but let's talk about Hawkeye, which is the nearest one. Like Hawkeye, I loved Hawkeye. There's no way. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I loved Hawkeye. I've seen it twice. I saw it with my daughter the second time, and she loved it. It is such a feel good, fun story that redeems the character.
Got great humor.
Great humor.
Get
Introduces
the season front and center.
right.
I like that in the city. Being from New York, I know we love that.
Yep.
You get the family aspect all over the place in it, right? He's always trying to get to his family no matter what, but something's in the way, but something he has to deal with, which is doesn't make it like it's a cliche, but they make it work. Right?
And it pays off, and it pays off, and it pays off. It's tied into the movies in so many different ways. It obviously deals with him mourning the loss of Natasha, which is big. Spoiler alert: Yelena comes back, and it's great. And Yelena's. We're missing Kate Bishop. Kate Bishop is amazing, and what I love about it is they give equal sort of respect to both characters. You know, it's not like somebody's coming in to take the place of the other. They're partners. They learn there's a caring there, and and they humanize Clint a lot. They took
but
it
I think
straight.
there's a lot of that. There's a lot in there of the redemption and opening up, because he doesn't want to be a partner. No, I just need the information from you. I'm going to handle this. This is something I have to do. Remember, that's kind of what he's saying. I made this mess. The real story is he made a mess now, and because it's coming back to haunt him. And in addition to that, he's living with the weight of Natasha on his back. And it's like an albatross around his neck. He can't let it go. And
because he feels like he's not worthy of living. He wasn't worthy of living.
Right. But I think also in the beginning, you also get the feeling, it's early in the series, I don't think as much carries as much weight that he doesn't feel like he's an Avenger the way Thor and Cap and Iron Man are.
Well, he considers himself a weapon, and that's that's the sort of the discussion that he has with Echo in episode 5, where that he's been treated as such. But to this point, what I love about, and again, we could talk about spoilers, because if you haven't seen it yet, then you shouldn't be watching this. You shouldn't be watching or listening to this podcast. I think, well,
it's a week now, so it's like 2 weeks.
It's a week, right? Yeah. I think it leaves you with so many more questions and excitement about where this is going to go. Obviously, the big reveals, Kingpin back. There's more questions posed than answered. Like, is this the Kingpin of the end of the Netflix series? There's a lot of questions there about, is it a variant? Is it a thing? I personally think it is. I mean, if we geek out a little bit about this, if you take the Netflix series, you take the blip, you take everything that's happened, you allusions to the fact that at the end of the Netflix series, he's basically been brought down by Matt Murdock. So, and including sort of the 5-year blip that you have the Ronin kind of running through the city and kind of decimating that empire. So it's either him rebuilding his empire again, and he's rebuilding it and sort of, you have the trust
in comics all the time. Right. You're wondering how nobody knows about the Kingpin. He's been fighting Daredevil for 30 years. He's been fighting Spider-Man. He's been fighting the Punisher. He's been to prison. He's been out of prison. He's the mayor of New York. It's whatever they want. It's just like comics. That's what I love about the Marvel, Spidey, what they've done.
And they're setting it, they're setting it up again. Like there's a
love of comics there.
There's a love of comics. And it's an adaptation. It's not a reinterpretation of it. Right. That's what I love about the MCU.
But the heart is there. That's kind of what I like. But going back to Hawkeye for a second. So really, Hawkeye to me was fantastic. I wouldn't say it's my favorite show. There were things I really loved about Captain America and the Winter Soldier or Falcon.
If I had to put you on the spot and you had to take the 4 shows? It's WandaVision, Captain America and the Winter Soldier, Loki, What If, and Hawkeye. If you had to take those 3, in what order would you rate them?
Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Are you going bottom up?
No, but first. Okay, let me go bottom, worst to last. So the last one for me would be Loki.
Really?
But let's do top 5.
There's top 5. That's what I'm saying. That's it. Those are them.
So Loki, What If, Hawkeye, WandaVision, Falcon, and Winter Soldier.
For me, It's interesting. So I would do Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I would probably do WandaVision.
5? That's the last one?
I'll tell you
Did
why.
you not see the back and forth that they had in that
Wait.
episode?
Let me
That's one
explain.
of the best
No.
dialogue.
No. Let me finish.
Oh my God.
Falcon and the
You're breaking
Winter
my
Soldier,
heart.
WandaVision, Hawkeye, What If, Loki. Why? I'll explain to you why. The ramifications of the multiverse in both Loki and What If are unparalleled. Okay. They're unparalleled. What ends up happening in Loki, basically by introducing the multiverse and also introducing Kang, is huge. The ramifications of that are undisputed. What if may actually be number 3 and Hawkeye number 2. What If for me was slow, and it was like some of them were great, some of them were bad. And then by the time you get to the last 2 episodes, it's freaking amazing, because now you've created sort of this whole other, you've made it consequential to the MCU in a big way, with Ultron and all that, and Strange Supreme. Hawkeye was just pure fun, straight up. It's like something you can watch over and over again. WandaVision was great. The problem with WandaVision is you were expecting something to come out of this at the time. You were expecting the multiverse to come out of this because of WandaVision. That ended up not being.
Well, what's a better line? It has the best line in all.
It has the best line about grieving. What is grief? What? Yes, absolutely.
Love persevering. What is grief?
Love persevering. Falcon and the Winter Soldier. As much as I love the interplay between both Bucky and Sam, which was great.
Whoa. But what about the key episode? I don't know if it was the last one where they talk about him taking the shield, and
that's fine. My problem is that the way this story was executed was not that scene, but the fact that they had to go back and change what kind of a virus it was. There was a lot of stuff that didn't end up being as powerful as it was. I thought the Loki stuff was a lot of fun. I mean, again, it was kind of.
Loki also had like so many memorable scenes, like
classic Loki. Loki.
I can't even. My heart as a fan to see that classic Loki scene, for him to come and take on that, it was just, and save them. It was just, he looked amazing. That is etched in my mind, right, of like a beautiful scene, just like, and again, it's not one of the best scenes in any of the movies, but to me, an epic scene is when Hela is fighting the freaking Valkyries and they're descending on her. Like, it's just so Kirby, so amazing, so awesome, Yeah.
Look, I got to tell you that what I loved about Loki was the fact that they went there with Kang. They brought him into the last episode, and I was like, holy shit. And that's the one thing that I liked.
It was Kang. It was a Kang,
right? But it's Jonathan Majors, and it's Jonathan Majors. The minute you see Jonathan Majors, you start geeking out because you're like, oh my God, it's Jonathan Majors. So you have that. Then number 2, that it was like 20 minutes of him talking to Sylvie and Loki, which was amazing.
Wonderful.
And that's what the scene between Yelena and Kate Bishop reminded me of with the macaroni. Just the fact that the 2 of them sat there talking, not fighting. That's what I love. That's what I love about what Marvel.
I know how Marvel does it. They just do it. I mean, that's just like the scene in An Age of Ultron where they're all sitting around and talking at the beginning of the movie. Right. With them trying to pick up the hammer, and you get all these like little interactions, or any of the movies. It's
character development. Again, that's what I'm trying to say. Again, I'm not trying to shit on Boba Fett, but again, how about not trying to show us how badass Boba Fett is? Show his character. Maybe it's me getting older and I don't really care about seeing mindless action scenes. I care more about like character.
Yeah, even though Commando is one of your favorite movies.
Come on, he's great. It's super fantastic. But I don't know how to put it. It's like you want to see these characters, and again, we're going to talk about it when we talk about Spidey, because Spidey
was Hawkeye good? Was the action good?
The action was fine. I mean, I thought the action wasn't what I was there for. It was fine. It was comic booky. It was a little, the slow motion bits where they're fighting on the ice was a little like, okay, fine. But it made up on so many different levels. Like the swordsman, what's his name, was I actually cracked up. He's good. LARPing, is that some kind of leisure activity? I made me laugh. His whole demeanor made me laugh. The tracksuit mafia was great. Trust the bro. All that stuff was great. Yelena was great. The whole bit
I love
between
her
and
interaction with Kate Bishop. That really made it for me. And
Kate Bishop made it for me. I love it, and obviously, that
the
there's
humor
going to
was
be.
great.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a fun show, and I'm excited to see what they do next. I think look, the year ended with a bang because it ended with Spidey, and Spidey's arguably one of the greatest MCU movies of all time. There's no question about it.
Yeah, I can't tell you, just seeing that one clip, Vlad, when they all land together. I mean, not to be spoilery again, but I think everybody knows everything about the movie already. But just seeing that clip the day it leaked of them all flipping together, just from when it starts, from them agreeing to go out and face the villains together, and they flip and they land together.
Look, yeah,
It felt like me reading the best comics I ever read.
well,
in
it's
the
yeah,
70s
it's
and 80s
look,
that I
it's the
ever read
same
as a
thing.
kid.
It's the same. It's like
I
a splash
cried.
page. It's a splash
Cried.
page. Look, it's there's certain the MCU.
That's like Wolverine fights alone. That's like
That's it's Wolverine fights alone.
It's like all these
it's
scenes
Ragnarok. It's
Yeah.
it's for Midgard for it's for Midgard. What is it for Midgard? For Asgard? For me?
Yeah.
That it's I'm the best at what
That's
there
like
is.
one of my top 3 Marvel moments from the movies. You got them landing, you got Avengers Assemble, and you got Underoos.
Well, yeah. Well, here's the thing about Endgame. That's why it's going to be very difficult to top Endgame, because Endgame literally has 2 of the greatest moments within 3 minutes of each other. It has Thor with Mjolnir. Okay.
Right.
It's got Thor with Mjolnir, and it's got the portal scene. And those 2 scenes alone, I mean, I can't tell you the emotions that you feel during Endgame. And you don't realize that Endgame, the moment from the portal scene, that's like there's 40 minutes left in that movie. It's like, that's ridiculous. How much is left in that movie? But you have Thor with Mjolnir. You have on your left.
On your left.
You have on your left. You have Tony and Peter reuniting, right? Reuniting. That's fucking. I mean, that it brings tears to my eyes. What was the other one that gets me? Oh no, you take the little one when he throws that thing. This T'Challa calling out Clint, calling him Clint, throw me the thing, like, which is a throwback to Civil War. I'm Clint, by the way. I don't care. Fuck all that, all the writing, all the little things
pay off.
Capture. Everything pays off. Don't worry, Cap, we got it. And Scott looks at what's her name, Wasp, and realizes, why you calling him Cap now? When she was making fun of him. All the references. That's great writing. That really is. And then you bring it to Spidey. Yeah. I'm sorry, now we're on Spidey, but what they did.
And one is the culmination of 10 years. Now you got 20 years.
20 years. You validated 3 different franchises, and you treated them all with the respect that they deserved, and you left all of them better off than they were when they did. I mean, well, I don't know if
you gave fans of all of it something.
Right, you did. And here's the thing. I've always been very, very critical of Sony putting themselves into the whole MCU thing. When Spider-Verse came out, I was very sort of resistant to it, because I felt like we already have Spider-Man. We have the true Spider-Man now in the MCU. We have Tom Holland, and he's the true Spider-Man, hands down. And then they do this, and you're like, okay, now it makes money. And now they're like, oh, look, we can run our own parallel properties to Spider-Man, and we could pull them. We could do all these things. But what they were able to do with No Way Home, which is basically reset Spider-Man. Number one, you reset Tom Holland's Spider-Man to be exactly where Spider-Man is supposed to be at the beginning of his career. He's got no money. He's got a cheap
you have
suit.
so much emotional punch along the way, but then you realize, I guess you've said this too. It's an origin story really for the Tom Holland.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's like he hadn't had his Uncle
The
Ben
MCU
moment.
Spider-Man.
He hadn't had his Uncle Ben moment, and Aunt May is his Uncle Ben. And it's
Right. He
funny,
doesn't have an Uncle Ben in the same way. He has
right? But
MA
now he has
somewhere.
Aunt May. But then you go back, and here's the thing: I just went back and rewatched Spider-Verse again, and then in Spider-Verse, Miles loses his uncle. Gwen loses Peter. So there's always that character in each of the universes that is the catalyst for them to become who they become.
Mhm.
So I think what they've been able to do right now, both Marvel Studios and Sony, is they've truly elevated Spider-Man to being the heart of the MCU right now.
Yeah, it's without a doubt.
Deservedly,
To me, he's
there
the
is-
linchpin now. Like,
he's the linchpin. He was supposed to be the linchpin after, because the torch was supposed to be passed on to him. But what they were able to do was reset him, because here's a problem that some people may have had after Endgame, was that in Far From Home, he ended up sort of being like Tony Light, because he had all the tech and he had all that. Spider-Man wasn't about the tech. Spider-Man was about do it yourself. Kid from Queens, do it yourself.
right, he's the heart. He's all heart.
And now he's got it. Now, and as much as people don't want to realize, Spidey's not supposed to have good luck. Spidey's supposed to have the fucked up luck.
Right.
He doesn't. He always doesn't get the girl the way he should get the girl. He goes.
But that may mean he's not an Avenger.
He shouldn't be an Avenger. Right now, he shouldn't be an Avenger. It was great that he was an Avenger. Nobody knows that he's an Avenger. Now, obviously, we know that a lot of this is going to be reversed at some point. It will be.
Yeah, I think we've gone far. I think one thing maybe we'll get better at this as we get a little more sophisticated with the, there's a lot that happens in the Spider-Man movie, and everybody's aware that he asks for people to forget that he's Spider-Man because it's causing all these personal problems, mainly for the people that he loves the most.
Right.
And it has repercussions. It opens up these doors to the universes, and these villains flood in, and all this chaos ensues. The heroes of those universes also come in, and they're inspired to help him. And eventually they do. And what happens is, at the end, he's left in a place where his wish comes true, except he has to accept that everybody's going to forget.
Well, he makes the sacrifice.
Right.
He makes the biggest sacrifice. With great power comes great responsibility. Right. And he takes the ultimate sacrifice to do it. And then, even though he says he's going to try to make MJ and Ned remember, he doesn't.
Right.
And look, the movie, there's no way to say that, you come out of it like crying. You do, because there's moments, there's like 3 or 4 moments in that movie. Now, I'm a softie, so I'll cry at anything. I'll cry at
so I cried. Listen, I cried in that Mandalorian episode.
I cried every time I cried in that Mandalorian episode. I cry every time I see the portal scene.
Every Marvel movie.
But not only out of sadness, I cry out of overwhelming joy. Like Thor showing up in Wakanda is arguably one of the greatest scenes.
Let me just say this unabashedly. I am so in awe of what they've been able to do for a comic fan like me.
Right.
That I could watch these movies and I'm blown away. My heart, like a kid, like sitting in my house when I just got home with a bag of comics from the Optimo down the street in New York, and I'm reading it and I'm seeing these things. I'm like, oh my God, it's the Avengers are fighting, Korvac or whatever. Right. It's just, or Galactus. Oh my God, it's the FF. Thor and the Avengers are showing up to fight Galactus too. It's just like, they are actually doing that shit now. Do you understand?
Yeah, it's there. Yeah, there's no way around it. It's like what they did
an Infinity War storyline, an Infinity Gauntlet storyline that is arguably better than the comic book ever was, and as big as it was. The only thing it didn't have is him punching out Celestials, right? But other than that, it had restarting the universe, going back in time, making decisions, people dying and coming back, the blip, people turning to dust. Then you have this movie, Spider-Man, and it's a fucking team up with alternate versions of himself. That's great. I mean, DC's got to be beating the crap out of themselves. I mean,
DC's got nothing on Marvel. I'm sorry.
And I'm a big DC fan.
Yeah, I know.
I love DC because of Crisis on Infinite Earths. That's my favorite story ever because of all the heart that's in it. That was heart in comic books, understanding the fan and how big important the universe was to the fans.
Understanding how
were
big the
gonna change
DC
it.
universe was to the fans.
Right.
Let's
Right. The
yeah.
DC universe was to fans, and how important it was to the writers to set it straight right. If we're going to change it, we're going to write a fucking good story that is respectful to the fans and respectful to the content. Fucking, I cannot believe how good they did it. Like, just to see even the interactions between the Spider-Man, even the interactions between MJ and Ned, or whatever his name is, with the Spider-Man.
What about the interactions even between the villains and themselves? I thought that was amazing.
There you go. I mean, it's just Octavius.
Octavius saying, "Peter, my boy, call it dear boy," brought tears to my eyes, because you just saw all that, just validating Tobey's Spider-Man. Andrew Garfield is the MVP. There's no question about it. His, he got the short end of the stick in the movies, and he ends up coming out smelling like roses. I know people want him to have another movie. Regardless,
I wouldn't mind. I think
I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind that either. But I wouldn't mind.
There were 13 Spider-Man books coming out at the same time at one time.
Well, Spider-Man is going to be the biggest. First of all, right now, as of today, Spider-Man No Way Home is the biggest moneymaker for Sony ever. So you take that for what it is. And here's the thing,
COVID, right?
even during COVID. And here's the thing, it's hard. I rewatched Into the Spider-Verse the other day, and I just realized, that, the road had already been paved, because it's not just, you have Spider-Man fans, and then you have the MCU fans. So it's the perfect storm. You have everybody who loves Spider-Man, and you're essentially getting a similar type of movie. And to add to it, other than having all these villains and all these other Spider-Man showing up, oh, by the way, we are also bringing back Matt Murdock. What?
So I know, right? Incredible
so stuff. As a fan, I'm not talking about
what a great use of the character, right?
What a great use of the character, and you bring him back. Awesome. You go, I'm a good attorney, and that's all you need. That's all you need. That's what I love. That's what I'm trying to say. It's the subtlety of it. That's going back to Boba Fett. Boba Fett doesn't have to do superhuman things. Just do one thing that makes you show him that he's a badass. Doesn't have to be much. Doesn't have to be him riding a fucking reptilian centaur. It's just got to be one little thing. Just one little thing that he does. Do you know what I mean?
But I think Marvel gets it right. So, but going back to Spidey, it's just a great movie. It's for fans, but it's also for fans of the original movies. It's fans of movies. I think it's just epic.
Again, think about how amazing Endgame was, and depressing it was, because of the obvious reasons. This is also a very depressing film, because it leaves Peter in a very dark place. He loses his aunt. All these other things are going on, and I think it's going to be interesting to see where they go with it. I've always had trepidation, because I feel that Sony's putting themselves in a little bit further than they should. I don't know what they're going to do with Mobius. Spoiler alert, where they left off with Venom at the end of the post-credit scenes.
I love that. I mean, if you have
but Eddie Brock it's not Eddie Brock. It's just a symbiote. So what does that mean? What's going to happen?
No, it's not. I think that's not it. It's still Venom. So it's Venom. My belief is, I think that the MCU can use the same. Who's the actor who plays
Tom Hardy?
But have him. It's not funny. You're a villain in this movie. You know what I mean? Just, they can have him.
Or the other option is they're saying that it's going to be Flash Thompson, which I think would be a bad idea.
The anti-venom and stuff like that, just kind of.
I don't know. I mean, look.
But either way, I'm willing to see it. I prefer that the MCU has the chance to do Venom right, because, again, no spoilers to anybody, that other Venom is complete crap. The CGI is terrible. The tone of the show, while it's fun to watch as popcorn, is unimaginative, uninteresting. Nobody gives a shit.
Yeah, I mean, we have to give credit where credit is due. Sony did what they did, but again, it's because of the MCU. The MCU was able. Look, I take back, Into the Spider-Verse was not an MCU movie, but it was a fucking.
It's a fun movie.
It's a fun, and again, I was never a big Miles fan. It was not my generation, but I understand where people love him. I love the older Peter Parker. I love the fact that you have all these things out there. I'm more of a purist. There's Peter Parker and MJ, J. Jonah Jameson, and Aunt May. That's what I know of, right? but I'm okay with it right now. I'm okay with everything that they're doing. And I'm now having these new Spider-Man in there and sort of seeing this. It's you can't go wrong.
No, I think they're doing great. So kind of before we kind of wrap up, a couple of things. Number one is both Loki and the Spider-Man movie kind of set up, I think, different branches of kind of the next at least year of storylines from Marvel, right?
Well, up until we have Doctor Strange, right?
Right. So Doctor Strange is going to deal with the repercussions of both
Of
Wanda
what he did, of
and,
Wanda
and what he did in,
right.
in Spidey.
Then I don't know what Thor's a different thing. Wakanda's a different thing. So those we have to see where those are going to go with. And the smaller stories, the ones that are going to be on TV.
Yeah. So where I was going was we don't really know I don't know what the big plan is for Marvel. So just to kind of put it out there, and we'll talk about this in future episodes, because we really don't have any call letters or any kind of website yet or anything to kind of talk about, but kind of the future kind of things I think we're really going to be interested in talking about is, where is Marvel going? Where does FF fit into this? Where do the X-Men fit into this? Where are the Eternals going, for Christ's sakes?
Do you care? Or do we care where the Eternals go?
Don't even say that, because you got to care, because everything is tied for a reason. Like, if the theories are correct and we're leading towards Secret Wars, then everything.
Well, are we Secret Wars? Are we first there's Secret Invasion, right? So there's something to be said.
TV, right? To me, that's TV. To me, the movie's kind of the big set pieces.
I beg to differ. So let's before, not to belabor this point, what I believe that Marvel is going to successfully do, which has not even been done, because remember the Netflix shows were there, and then Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. were there. They never really married the stuff with the movies as well. I believe now, especially like the way that Yelena was used in Hawkeye, and what happened in Loki and everything, there's going to be more integration between the movies and the television shows.
Yeah, but you don't discount WandaVision too, because WandaVision
WandaVision also. WandaVision is building, because Wanda is the precursor. Wanda's the precursor to a multiverse of madness. Loki and What If are the precursors to basically multiverse of madness and Spidey, right? Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
I don't think multiverse of madness. So again, I think we saved this for another episode, but what happens in Loki, we talked about this a little bit. There's Kang is time. The chaos in the multiverse is something different. I know it seems like it's very similar.
No, but I'm saying, but they've opened up the possibilities that the multiverses exist. Remember, the multiverses weren't supposed to exist because Kang, the one
holding it together.
The minute that happened, that gives the possibility for what happens in What If. And what happens, not only what happens in What If, what happens in WandaVision as well.
Okay. Before we get too far,
okay,
let's if you don't mind, kind of like
wrapping up here.
Yeah, say goodbye to everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Listen, we don't have a schedule yet, but once we get it, we'll put it out there.
Like and subscribe. Yeah, like and subscribe. I don't know what you're going to like and subscribe.
Heads up, Guardians.
Heads up, Guardians. Yes, Heliopolis XD here saying heads up, Guardians. And
the good news is we're using this as kind of a pilot test, and that'll give us whether we're going to post this or not. I don't know. So maybe you won't even see this. But I think Vlad has really taken on the lion's share of kind of the editing chores and kind of going to look at it and see what we can do. Obviously, we're going to get fancier as we understand how to do this kind of podcasting / streaming thing.
Well, two fans. We're going to have two fans who are going to love watching us, and that's it.
Yeah.
So we're doing this for two fans. And again, we may do it in a couple of ways, just so everybody knows. We may actually do an audio only thing. I might just extract the audio and put it up there as just an audio thing. We may do the video as well. We don't know yet. So we're starting.
I don't know how you can't do the video when I look this good. I mean, come on. Imagine how many likes and subscribes we're going to get just off of this face.
Why don't you put up your little grinding picture and then we'll go from there.
Yeah. See, that's what you guys have to look forward to is my grinding photos from when I'm exercising and doing my boxing.
His disingenuousness knows no bounds.
Anyway, thanks for tuning in. The podcast is called
By the Power Cosmic
Podcast.
It's actually the Power Cosmic Podcast.
PCP, the PCP.
The PCP. So welcome to the inaugural episode of the PCP with your hosts Iliopolis XD and Vlad D. Actually Vlado. Okay.
Anyway,
Thanks everybody. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.